What's going on, everybody? It's yours truly, man, with another episode of Alphacology. Hope y'all been doing good, being the most alpha male versions of yourselves, or alpha versions for the female listeners out there, right? So, let me go ahead and read this real quick. And it's been a long time in the making, but from one of my followers, it says, I got a random text. And I was just talking about, like, man, I got to get better. I got to start back doing my podcast. But anyway, podcast, and it reads like this. It says, hey, man, I was just listening to your podcast again. This one always helps me get through shit. Just wanted to say I appreciate it. So when I first started this podcast, I was about to quit it. And a young man hit me up and he was like, man, I was having suicidal thoughts and having, bad dreams. He was going through a bad breakup, and he heard my podcast and he listened to those same episodes over and over. And he just reached out to me one day and told me how I helped save his life. And that motivated me to keep, doing my podcast. Now, during these days, mental health, these times, mental health is a big thing, especially men's mental health. So I was very motivated. I was so motivated. And I remember that day because I was sitting in Walmart parking lot and I just got off the phone with a couple of my friends and they was like, man, you need to stop all that. You don't need to be doing no podcasts, yada, yada, yada. I was like, man, I'm going to keep it going. I don't know. And then maybe, I was sitting there debating. I'm like, maybe this a bad idea. Everybody's shooting it down. Everybody don't believe in what I'm doing. Needless to say, I get that same text that night. And this is like deja vu. I was like, man, maybe I need to give this up, or I'm going to try to get back and stay consistent. And I was motivated to do that. And sometimes you need that little motivation, right? And shout out to my sponsor, Cocosa. It's cream liqueur with a little bit of whiskey in here. It's real good. But needless to say, I had to stop and do that. Needless to say, I think everybody needs a little motivation. And that motivated me. I was so motivated. 200 episodes later, boom, just like that. 200 episodes from that one little motivation. So what I learned when you're trying to be the most alpha version of yourself, it's not always about motivation. Sometimes you don't have the motivation. Sometimes you have everything against you. I think I had enough excuses to quit Alphacology from. I'm not making money from it no more. I don't have the means or the time to do it. I was distracted. And it's easy to quit. I remember one of my old coaches used to say this all the time. It's easy to quit. And when I say it's easy to quit, I really mean that. Because why? Why not quit? That's the easiest thing you could do. But also, I remember my old coach saying the easiest thing to do is quit. But remember, every person that lived homeless under that bridge, the first step they took to get to under that bridge and get homeless was to quit. So I don't want to quit fighting that good fight at all. So that motivated me, right? So what I learned through all of this stuff is motivation is good. It gets you there. It gets you there. It gets you rolling. But what happened when that motivation dies off? And we go off of feeling. I used to always say, man, I'm just going to do my podcast when I feel like doing it. And it worked for me for a couple years. For about 2-3 years, it worked for me. I was getting everything done. I was motivated to do it. I made time for it. And then the emotion died. The emotional part of the motivation died down. Because motivation is an emotion. So, like I always tell you guys, emotions come and go. All right? So with that being said, in order for you to achieve your goals, you're going to have more than motivation. And what I learned about that is motivation is great, but now you need discipline. That's what keep food on the table, gas in your car, keep the engine going, right? It gets you to your next goal is discipline. So I'm here to say motivation is not enough. You need discipline. Because once that motivation die down, that's what you're going to be feeding off of. That's what's going to run your whole company. That's what's going to run your whole goals. That's what's going to run your whole career is discipline. And if you don't have discipline, you're going to quit. And that's the easiest thing to do when you don't have discipline. You're going to quit, man. So I'm here to tell you right now. Discipline and motivation go hand in hand. And you're not going to get to your goal without discipline. That's it. I proved my point. I proved that this podcast is something important. I proved that this podcast helps men lives. But what I didn't prove is that I had the discipline to keep it growing. And I had a lot of setbacks. I remember we had, shout out to Vibing Network. I remember I got with the Vibing Network. I turned down a contract with Reverb, P. Diddy, one of P. Diddy's companies. Kind of glad I did that. But I turned down a contract with them and went with somebody who gave me more creative control, more freedom. And we were doing good. We were getting the subs. We was doing the YouTube. I think that's the hardest thing to do is YouTube. TikTok cool, Instagram cool, but that YouTube money, it just hit different. So we was trying to get to the money to where I could do it full time. I could be fully invested like I need to, right? And I remember him telling me, man, we just got demonetized. I'm like, what happened? And it's a part of the video that said, is this for children, yes or no? And you have to put no. I have to put no because we on here cursing, talking about sex. We might talk about, some illegal stuff sometime. I get those type of guests. So I looked at it and I'm like, dang, we might as well forget it. We just here vibing, like the Vibing Network. And now that I look back at it, I could have quit. I kept pushing. I kept working. I was still motivated. So this is the biggest test because now I got a little motivation, but I've been around here before. So I went back, started doing everything I need to do. And that wasn't the only setback. I was like, all right, vibing, we still going to do it, but I still need to do my Spotify. And for some odd reason, Spotify changed their whole thing up. And, well, it was Anchor first, and then Anchor got sold to Spotify. And they changed it up to where you had to do 2 or 3 extra steps. It took a little bit longer. Now I need a laptop because I used to just jump on my phone anytime I felt like it and record. Boom, record. Or record from the phone, record from the car, and put it on Anchor. And, was getting paid a little bit of money for doing that. And I was happy with that. But when they switched to Spotify, I had to get my whole account back. I had to call them. It was just a lot of moving parts, going back and forth, trying to prove that I'm the one who started Alphacology. This is my intellectual property. And I realized it's a lot of stuff I need to do to just post again. And every time I had a podcast, I'm talking about I had 35, 45-minute podcasts, I would upload it to Riverside or whatever they were doing, and I would hear nothing. So I'm uploading blank podcasts, and it was just very frustrating. At the same time, I was in what I call one of those Jezebel relationships where I wasn't motivated, I didn't have the support, and I had a bunch of stuff going on where I was like, you know what, I'm just push this to the side. I might not even do it no more. And that was the biggest mistake I made when it comes to podcasting. And then all the other people that were blowing up around me, I'm talking about they were blowing up, bro. And I couldn't understand it. Like they were taking my talking points. They were going on my like, bro, you got that from me. So it's hard to say that when you're not posting, you're not staying consistent, you're not disciplined. So that's what we need to do. Like, one thing to be to the most alpha male version of yourself, you have to be disciplined. If you're not disciplined, it's not gonna work. All right. So fast forward to now, I just made up in my mind I didn't like where I was in my life at that point. I mean, it was getting better, life was good, but I know it could be better. And I was like, it's missing something. And I'm like, man, I moved up here. Shout out to all the people who helped me move up here. Shout out to my realtor. Shout out to my family members. You know who you are. I moved up here with a purpose. And one of my purposes was to grow my podcast. It's a better algorithm up here in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a better everything, right? So I still have the support I need. I ran into some good friends. And I have all the tools I need to be successful. But I still, guess what? I wasn't consistent. So I was doing podcasts here or there. You know, I did one with my boy Matt with the Kokosa, and I did a couple other podcasts, but it didn't sit right. It felt like I was forcing it, and I realized I wasn't motivated. So that's when the discipline kicks in. You got to remember your why. That's what they say, right? Remember your why. Remember your purpose. And I do believe this is a purpose I have. So I don't just do it for the money or for the views. I save. If I could touch one person, change their mindset, change his heart, stop him from committing suicide, stop him from going to jail, stop you from beating up on your girl, I'm going to do it. That's what it's here for. And I feel like every day that I'm not consistent, I don't save. I don't help the Most High save a soul. So that's what I'm here for. That's what Alphacology is all about. So even me, like, hey, this podcast, I'm still learning, I'm still growing. And guess what? I'm not perfect. Because if I was perfect, this would be $1 million podcast. I would be more consistent. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm more consistent and I'm more intentional with what I'm doing. So that's what we're going to be talking about in the next few podcasts. How to be more consistent, how to be more intentional. Because my intentions were to help change for the better. I always believe that being the most alpha male version of yourself is better for everybody in your family, better for everybody around you, and it's better for your environment. If you don't take yourself seriously, who will? I remember I was talking with my father the other day. Shout out to my dad. Really love you, man. And he said, man, you know, I had a little meeting I had to go to. I had to wear a suit. And he was like, man, you look good in that suit. If you wore that suit every day, you'll be a millionaire. And my first thing in my head was like, that's not even feasibly possible. I don't feel like wearing a suit every day. And I said, and then that's when I realized, when I was thinking about this podcast, I'm like, if I was motivated to wear a suit every day, I would wear a suit every day. I got to stop going off feelings and be more intentional. When you're intentional, it ain't about your feelings. It's about the strategy, the progress, the goals you're trying to reach. You got to do what you have to do so you could do what you want to do. I want to make $1 million. So I have to do certain things. So if I don't take myself seriously, who will? My favorite line is, if I don't love me, who will? I love me some me, you know? So I said that to say all this, man. I'm back being consistent. I'm back sitting, send me some DMs. I'm not going to ignore them. I'm not going to tell you anymore that, hey, I'm not doing the podcast this month, so don't ask me no questions. None of that. I'm still doing my consultations. Shout out to everybody who wants a consultation. You want a consultation? Just hit me up at Alphacology 1K. I come with receipts. I help bros out. I help the bros out. My fellow alpha male brethren. I feel like it's an alpha male in every last one of you. You just got to bring it out. It's a spectrum for me. Sometimes, some days you more alpha than others. So you got to figure out how to consistently stay alpha. Me, I think that's one of the most beta male things I ever did. That's one of the most beta male things you could ever do is not be consistent. Even when you're dating or in a relationship, number one thing when I do consultations with women, they try to figure it out men. The first complaint they had, he's not consistent. He's not. So, guess what? They like to say life's a what? Bit. Life's a bit. And the only way to control a bitch, right? The only way to control what they say life is to stay consistent. If you're going to keep them gators on the neck, you got to keep the gators on the neck. If you're going to finesse, you got to stay finessing. If you're going to play it smooth, you got to stay playing it smooth. Whatever you do, you got to be good at what you do. I was talking to a young man. Well, he was older than me, but I was talking to him today at the barbershop. Fresh cut. Gotta love me some me. I was talking to him today at the barbershop, and he was trying to figure out how this dude was doing the same type of content he was doing. He was a YouTube content creator. He was like, oh man, he does this and he's funnier than me. And then, the suggestion came, oh, you got to be funny like him. And I don't want to be like nobody else. So don't sit up here and tell me I'm like this content creator. I'm like this guy, that guy. I want to be me. Never wish you was another man. I'm not going to be anybody else but me. When they ask me what I'm good at, I always tell them I'm very good at being me. You got to be very good at being you. If you are very good at being you, you're going to go far in life. You got to be, but guess what? That comes after consistency. I don't look at anybody else podcast and say, oh, I'm going to talk about exactly the same thing and do their talking points. I hate when people get my talking points. When I do a talking point, I shout that person out. It's kind of like, citing your sources, references. If you ever been to college, you got to cite your sources, APA format, MLA format. You got to shout out to where you got it from and you put it together. I say this all the time. Shout out to all the celebrities out there. Y'all teach a lot of alpha male lessons, especially them basketball and those football players. You teach a lot of lessons. But I know, and I tell people you got to share those guys' grace because they live different lives. They're millionaires. They're famous, so they can't date the same people we date. And everybody always say this, like, oh, why such and such? Why they pass around the same girls or date the same girls? Because those girls understand the game. That's the number one reason. Whatever you trying to do in life, get you a woman that understands what you're trying to do, that understands the game and where you're trying to go. That's the best advice for 2025 I could give you when it comes to relationships. Get you a woman that understands the game. You know what I'm saying? If you're a teacher, get you a woman that teach. Or you trying to be this, or you trying to be a podcaster or a broadcaster, talk to women that do that. If you're going to date women that's on the same level as you or will help you get to the next level. Because the worst thing I did in the dating world or in a relationship was get with a woman that we weren't equally yoked at all. I felt like I had no support. Versus me when I'm with a woman who's on the same timing as I am, who want to do everything I want to do. It's easier for them to submit and fall in line. You understand? So that's the first thing I want you guys to understand. But like I always say, man, you guys can hit me up on Instagram or Twitter at Alphacology 1K. All right. Alphacology, the name right there in the back. I did the whole wall. Shout out to my team. You understand? Shout out to JD. Shout out to Tiffany. Shout out to my boy Daniel. They helped me put the wall together. It depends on who's telling the story. They gonna say they did the whole wall. I'm gonna say I did the whole wall. The wall got done. All right, because of my alpha energy. That's all that matter. So hit me up, Alphacology 1K. This month alone, I'm gonna be doing free consultations. You know what? I'm gonna stretch it to 2 months. Forget it. For the rest of the year. I probably could do a tax write-off. So for the rest of the year, free consultations. 1 free consultation. All right. I'll still send you the invoice. That don't mean nothing, but it's 1 free consultation, man. So hit me up, Alphacology 1K. I look forward to talking with, my colleagues, my constituents. I don't like calling them followers. I like calling them supporters. Y'all don't follow me. We support each other. You're my supporters. So shout out to my supporters, man. And I'll hit you up, guys. Hit you guys up next time. Again, this is not tea. It's protein. Peace out.